Hey everyone, I'm so excited you're here. Welcome to our KBIS and Cambria talk. I am super pumped. My name's Tara Kiefer. I am the founder and CEO of Network NextGen. We work with 20s to 30s in the design industry. We host events across the country. We're in 13 cities right now. And we also have, of course, with 2020, shifted to some online virtual experiences as well. So yeah, definitely check us out. I am so pumped to be interviewing today Jaclyn Johnson. She's the CEO and founder of Create and Cultivate. If you don't know what Create Cultivate is, you should definitely go to Instagram, check them out. They're an amazing platform for women who are really trying to cultivate the dream career, their dream lives. Jaclyn, you have such an amazing following. Jaclyn hosts not only conferences for women, but there's also a lot of virtual online platforms you have as well. I'll let you kind of elaborate on that. But I have to tell you all, I've been following Jaclyn's career for a while. Super impressed just by your marketing strategy and how you've just really inspired women across the globe with your platform. You also wrote a book, Work Party, which I told this story to Cambria and they're making me tell it, which makes me sound like a total fangirl, which is okay, Jaclyn, fine. So I was reading your book on the plane back from an event in LA, and I was laughing so hard because you were talking just in such a real, authentic way about the chaos that ensues before events. Like, you've interviewed celebrities, done amazing large scale events, but like the chaos you talked about of everything kind of just like running around, throwing things together right before, and then you walked on the stage and were like, boom, let's do this. It was so inspiring to me because I'm like, gosh, that's how I feel. So it's so nice to hear that you feel that way too. And I just felt like we could relate on so many levels. So I'm so glad that Cambria kind of, thought of me to interview you and bring you into KBIS. It's exciting.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me, and thanks so much for telling that story. No, just kidding. But yeah, I'm Jaclyn Johnson. I'm the founder and CEO of Create and Cultivate. As Tara said, we are a media company for ambitious women. We have online platforms. We used to do a lot of events. Hopefully, we'll be doing more IRL events soon, but has since shifted to digital. Been hosting digital summits. We have a podcast, and we reach around 1 million women monthly. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here and chat about Cambria.
Yes. Okay. So, first, before we jump into that, we do have a giveaway, which is great. So, if you would like to enter in the giveaway, it is a Create Cultivate marketing bundle. Is that right, Jaclyn?
Yes, Create and Cultivate Marketing Bundle. It has all sorts of awesome downloads and video content and all the things you need to get your marketing strategy going. So yes.
Which we all need for sure. I know there's a ton of next geners watching that own their own firms. I know there's a lot of people out there who could just benefit from a marketing bundle. So if you'd like to enter for that, that's going to be in the chat. There's actually a registration link. So head there, register. And yeah, I hope you guys win. So Jaclyn, tell us, what is your connection with Cambria? Like, how did you get introduced to the brand? I'd love to hear more about that from you.
Yeah, so I actually have been a fan and a friend of Cambria for a long time now. I actually have a little presentation I'm going to pull up to kind of walk you through our love affair, essentially. But yeah, so basically, the funny thing is I actually went to Cambria HQ in Minneapolis, in Minnesota.
Be one of those trips. That's great.
Yes. What I feel like was 1,000 years ago now, but actually wasn't. I was like, what are planes? But yeah, so I got to go on this press trip with some incredible interior designers and essentially learn all about, one, the company, but two, about quartz in general, how it's made, how they come up with the designs, what are the trends, which was really fun to kind of dive into. And all of this was kind of happening. And that's me. I look 40 years younger, if you can't tell. But yeah, it was all sort of happening amidst essentially a few different home projects that I was doing. And since we've worked on 3 different projects together. So most recently, my husband and I bought a house in March, as you do in the middle of a global pandemic.
I was going to say, there's not a better time really for changing.
Not a better time, yes. But also not a bad time to have a project that's all consuming in completely redoing a house. So
Yeah.
It was really fun. And so we ended up obviously going with Cambria. This is our master bathroom. We ended up using Colton, which was one of the newer designs that they have. It's absolutely beautiful. And we used it in the shower and on the sink. And I love the shower piece. You could also see we used it on the backsplash of the bath as well. Because I also used Cambria at my old house as well, which I'll show you guys also, but it's just so amazing in the bathroom because it's so durable. And it looks obviously incredible as well.
Yeah.
One of my favorite projects we worked on together was actually the Create and Cultivate offices. So
So cute.
Thank you. Yeah, we call it the Create and Cultivate Clubhouse. And obviously we wanted to create this really fun, vibrant environment for our girls. And one of the things that was really great about this space was that it had this kind of amazing kitchen for an office, but it had this huge empty space in the middle. And we're like, oh, we need an island for sure. And so I was obsessed with the Queen Anne mat quartz. I actually saw it when I was in Minneapolis in someone's kitchen that they kind of showed us, and I just fell in love with it. And obviously being that our space is sort of, warehousey. It has, raw wood, concrete. We went ahead and did that really big statement island as well as the countertops to kind of offset the pink. We have this great mural that says collaboration over competition. So fun to sort of team up on that as well. And you can kind of see the countertops there with the pink backsplash, just like a dream come true.
Don't you love that matte look? There's something about it that I'm just like, yes. I love it.
I love it. It's beautiful. It looks amazing. Also, we use the glass tiles, which are shiny. So it's kind of nice to have that contrast of the matte and shiny as well. And then, the first project we ever did was my first house. And it was so fun. We essentially used Torquay all throughout the kitchen. So obviously like a larger backsplash, we did an island with a waterfall on both sides, as well as sort of using that same pattern in the master bathroom in the shower. So long standing love affair for sure. And we are actually currently working on a really fun project. So with the new house that we bought, the kitchen had Carrara marble in the kitchen throughout and the island and things like that. Okay. And it is awful. Like I was joking because I was like, this is almost like made for TV here, because the staining on this marble, it's horrendous. And like my husband and I hate it. And I was like chatting with, the team at Cambria. I'm like, all right, it's time for an overhaul. And it's a big project because it's a lot of countertops and things like that. So we were going to be going with Hawksmoor, which is a new design, completely redoing it. We're adding a waterfall to the island. So stay tuned. That project will also be added to this presentation as well. But we just had so much fun, and I'm like the #1, I'm the unofficial spokesperson, I feel like, of Cambria at this point, because I truly am a walking infomercial. I'm like pouring red wine on it. Like, look at this, it doesn't stain. So
that's what I do in my kitchen. It's not so much about the cooking, it's like the red wine.
Just the wine. That's all we really care about here.
100%. That's really fascinating too, that you had the Carrara marble, because I feel like a lot of people, they think about that, and then it's like anyone who's had it will plug something, like Cambria, because they're like, you think you want it until you have it.
It's good on paper, bad at life, truly. Like, I mean, that's really how it works. It's one of those things where I could not get over how bad the staining was. And it's new. I mean, we've only been in this house 6-7 months. Like, it's shocking. I'm like, can you imagine what this is going to look like in 10 years? Like, I can't even. So it's super exciting. It's always a fun project. And obviously all the new designs, I just love seeing what they come up with next, because they just keep getting better and better. So I'm really excited about integrating this new design. The Colton obviously is beautiful and amazing as well. But that's sort of the trip down memory lane for me, and sort of my relationship with Cambria.
On one of those trips though, because Cambria, like, their trips are just so magical. Like, I got to attend one myself. It was kind of like a different version of the one you went on, but like, it just really does open your eyes to like how incredible the brand is, and also like what goes into it. Like, I had no idea. Like, did they take you on like a factory tour, Jaclyn?
Yes, it was unbelievable.
Unbelievable. I've been in design my whole career, but I had no idea that it was like broken down, and like some of just the details of the quartz itself was like mind blowing to me.
It really is. It's like you rarely get to see the behind the scenes of things like this. And the factory is also just so behemoth and like beautiful. And it just, the whole experience was really amazing for me. And then also, we got to go to different restaurants and stores and as well as commercial and home projects that use it. And it's just great to see it in different executions as well.
That's awesome. Now, when did you go though? Because you're from Los Angeles and Minneapolis is cold. Did you?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think it was definitely cold. I'm from Florida. I live in Los Angeles. I had no idea what was happening. I was like, what is going on with this like winter weather? But it was so much fun though. Like it's always good to get out of your element a little bit.
That's true. That's true. Okay, cool. Well, should we switch to questions that came in from Next Geners for you?
Let's do it. Yeah, sounds great.
Cool. And then if anyone else who is watching right now has questions, you can pop them into the chat and then we will be pulling some Q&A questions there. So like just pop them into the chat for Jaclyn. Okay, so this is from Sarah Kuchar. She is a Next Gener in Chicago. She's a designer, interior designer. She owns Kuchar Studios. She asked, do you have any tips on how you have kept your team motivated while being remote during a tough year? I think a lot of us are trying to do that, if you're on a sales team and you're a sales rep, or if you're a designer, like any tips that you've had either from your interviews or that you've had yourself on like keeping people motivated during this type of year where you're not necessarily always together?
Yeah, it's a great question. And basically for us, we've been working remote now since March. We've always had teammates that have lived in different cities. So we kind of already had like a little bit of a Zoom situation, obviously not nearly to the extent that it is now. But for us, I think what's really important is little surprise and delight elements for your team. Typically we would do like a holiday party at the end of the year or a quarterly outing or something like that. And you just obviously can't do that right now. So for us, what we've been doing is having these really fun sort of surprise and delight quarterly events, whether it's a wine tasting that we're all doing together or sort of an unboxing moment. We've even done cooking lessons, things like that. And also doing it in more intimate groups. So if you have like a senior leadership team, we'll do more senior focused activities. But I do think FaceTime is really important and being able to just have check-in meetings, whether it's one-on-one or anything like that, and just checking in with your team to make sure that obviously, they're doing well. I think, this is a really challenging year for work, obviously, and last year was really challenging for work, but it's also for life, right? So I think it's just important about checking in with your teammates, seeing what they need or what they want. We had an instance where one of our employees, lives with a lot of roommates, right? And so she was like, I kind of want to get out and go to the office. And we're like, go to the office. Like you can go to the office, obviously follow all the fun protocols that we have to go through, but like, kind of checking in and giving them what they need to kind of be successful, I think is really important.
I love that. I love that. Okay, cool. Our next question is kind of more marketing related. You've obviously built this incredible brand. And I know you kind of started when Instagram was getting big and you like capitalized on that, which is amazing. And I think a lot of people have kind of followed your lead in that. But Maddie Rahman, hey, Maddie, she's out in San Francisco. She asked, how do you stand out when there are so many others who might provide the same service as you? Obviously, we work with a ton of interior designers that, your styles are different, but like you do provide the same service. Are there any pitfalls and any things to look out for?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really crowded marketplace now on Instagram, on TikTok, whatever your platforms is. There's a lot of people who are, doing the same things that you are. There's a lot of people doing the same things that we are. The way you stand out, I think, is by delivering specific content, right? So whether that's a specific look and feel, like you shoot all of your, projects in a certain like light or a certain way or a certain type of, project. Maybe you work with the same photographer. Also, maybe you do more behind the scenes. So I've been seeing, actually, I follow this one interior designer I love. Her name is Victoria Lee Jones, and she's been doing a ton of TikTok, which has been really fun to kind of see with like little hacks that she's doing at her client's house. Like, oh, narrow hallway, here's how to like create a shelf that will fit there. Oh, don't have an island, here's a solution for that. Like creating these little solution-driven tips and things like that, whether it's video content or reels or TikTok or whatever, I think is really performing well. I would say video is the future for all of these different platforms. I know it hurts because it hurts us too, right? It's hard to make, it's time consuming, it's expensive if you're doing it really high quality. All of those things are true, but it is just what it is currently. You know, video is where it's at, and those things are performing leaps and bounds over just static imagery. I think also you're starting to see more of a lean into education. So I think all of a sudden for me, Instagram in the past like 6 months has really been about, hey, here's some tips and tricks of like how to do X, Y, and Z in whatever industry you're in, if you're in real estate or if you're in interior design. So leaning into that education component, I think is really important, but also staying true to your brand. Like if you're a luxury brand, really focusing on putting out those luxury images and following those luxury clients. If you want to be more accessible, go in that direction. If you want to be more of a face or an expert or, you know, a thought leader in interior design, you have to be on there, you know, putting in that face time. So really thinking about what you want out of these social networks, what you're looking to gain out of these social networks. Is it new clients? Is it followers? Is it, you know, that thought leadership component? And then building your strategy from there.
On mute.
Oh, I think,
Sorry. Perfect. Okay. Are there any other tips you have for someone putting a marketing plan together? Like you just gave a bunch of options, but if they're starting from square one and they're kind of like overwhelmed, is there any kind of content like info you can give about like actually starting, like no marketing plan? Now you're starting. I think a lot of the designers and design community, they just are a little overwhelmed about where to go, or like, you know, you have a set
yeah.
budget. And it's like, how do you decide? Do I put this budget into hiring a marketing person? Do I put this budget into, you know, producing content? Like, do you have any kind of like basic tips for starting a marketing plan in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost is understanding your bandwidth. To your point, like, do you even have time to do any of this stuff? And if you don't, then hiring someone could be a good option, whether it's a freelancer, an employee, or something to that effect. The other thing I would say is figuring out what your content strategy is and what your paid plan is are two totally different things. So when it comes to your content strategy, I would say one of the biggest tips I have is that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are a ton of resources online that have beautiful templates already built for you that you can literally just plug and play into. Canva is a good example of that. Planoly is a good example of that. Creative Market has a ton of opportunities and options as well that are quite affordable. So don't think you have to like design every little piece of your content strategy. There are a ton of plug and play options out there. So I would say that's first and foremost. The other thing is from a paid perspective, in the interior design industry, I would say your images are the most important thing out there, right? Your work is so crucial. So investing in photography, I would say, is probably my number one tip for interior design. I know I find my interior designers that I work with or people that we're looking to feature based off their Instagram, right? And like what that look and feel is, and does it relate to me? So I think first and foremost, investing in photography, number one. Number two is figuring out what your content strategy is. And then number three is, do I want to participate in the pay to play space? Maybe, maybe you do, maybe you don't. And if you do, you know, you can get out there and do specific ads. You can target specific clientele in specific regions, and you can kind of go down that rabbit hole. But baby steps, first and foremost, I would say is understanding your budget. Do you need to outsource? If you don't, looking for plug and play opportunities and options, making sure you build it into your schedule to make time for it because it's really important.
That's a
And
good
then
one. I don't think people realize how much time that is, you know?
oh yeah, it takes forever. Like my husband laughs at me, but I'm like, I'm trying to write this caption. You know,
Yeah.
it truly isn't. And, you know, a lot of times people think social media managers should be junior level employees. And I disagree. I think you need someone who understands your brand, understands the importance of it, understands your voice and tone. And that could be a junior person. It could be a more senior person. It could be a freelancer. But I think it's really important. There's a lot of great smaller agencies out there that you can tap and hire to at least get it going. You know what I mean? You don't have to keep, you know, get them to start your voice and then you could finish it too. It really depends on your business and the size and scale, but don't think of it as an afterthought. It really has to be from the beginning.
Well, especially now, like you said, so many people are finding their designers or their contractors through Instagram. Like they're like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I saw you here. And then they start the chat. So like it's definitely not something to overlook. I think most people know that by now, but like if you haven't, like it's definitely something to really spend some time on researching. But Okay, cool. So next question is from Deborah Nemeth. She's a designer in Chicago. What are the steps and thought processes for creating and implementing your personal brand? So I'm sure you see this a lot with a lot of the people who attend your conferences, Jaclyn, whether they are working full time to pay the bills and they're starting like a side hustle,
Mhm.
or they're testing the idea of going out on their own. Um, how do you work on creating a personal brand? Is it something that designers should think about? I know, for instance, you have like the Create Cultivate page, then you have the Jaclyn Johnson brand as well as your own page. So if you can speak to that a little bit, that would be great.
Yeah, personal brand is more important than ever. And I would say when you're building well, one, you have to think about like, do you want to be out there as the face of your company? And if you do, great. I mean, if you don't, that's fine too. I think it really just depends on the type of business that you have and what you want to grow to be. If you do, I would say it's really important to understand and establish who you are and why you're doing it, right? So for me, it's like I'm the CEO of Create and Cultivate, and I'm doing it to help give women the tools, tips, and tricks they need to go out and create and cultivate the career of their dreams, right? So I understand who I am, what role I play, and why I'm doing it. So I think that's really important as well. For interior designers, I think it's also really important to nail what your style is, right? So like specializing in mid-century modern, cozy, what is it? Joanna Gaines shiplap
Like
chic, whatever,
farmhouse chic. Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
farmhouse chic, whatever.
yeah.
And you could also just be versatile designer based on my client's needs. Like that's totally fine too. But if you want to kind of own that piece, I think you have to really double down on it, have that as your mission statement and what you do and how you're well known in that space. If you want to be more of a thought leader, I think it's just about putting out that educational content out there of like, yes, I'm an interior designer. Yes, this is all the amazing stuff I'm doing, but I'm also going to give you a behind the scenes look into the business of interior design, how I started, how I'm getting to where I am, or maybe follow along on my journey as I grow my business, right? So if you start doing that, then you can kind of lean into speaking opportunities or press opportunities to be providing that information, and of course, elevating yourself and your brand along with it. So I think it's really about defining it, having a very clear bio on your Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever it might be. There's nothing more frustrating than going to someone's bio and them having like,
What is
50,000 followers.
it?
You're like, why? Who? Why? I don't know
Yeah,
why. It's like,
totally.
Jaclyn Johnson, interior designer, California chic, Los Angeles, California, whatever it is. Having all that information in there is so crucial, but also having the website to back it up is really important as well. Having that beautiful website with all the imagery, who you are, why you're doing it, how to contact you is so key as well. So it's like you kind of have to have this like trifecta of personal brand down, great website, great content.
Totally. Okay, I'm gonna pull. So Jaclyn, just so you know, this is why my eyes might be like all over the place. I'm pulling from
Oh,
Next Center questions as well as from anyone who's typing in live Q&A. So guys, if you're watching this, please type in some live Q&As and I'll make sure I get those out. So here's a great one from, this is in the live Q&A from Emily Wang. On your website, your quote is highlighted as behind every great woman are great women. Love that saying and promoting female support and encouragement. Curious to know who has been the most influential female mentor during your career and process.
yeah, I mean, it's been really interesting because essentially I started Create and Cultivate because I didn't have a mentor and I didn't have someone that I could really go to get that information. So I wanted to create a site and a community where women could find that. But for me, it's like super cheesy, but I would say my mom has been an incredible mentor to me. Both my parents are small business owners, have been my entire life. Like I grew up stuffing envelopes with them in their office. So it's always been amazing to have my mom sort of by my side as giving me that advice as a small business owner to, do this or do that, or make sure you're on top of this as you grow. So I would definitely say my mom has been an incredible mentor to me over the years. I call her my unofficial co-founder.
That's so great. Biggest cheerleader. This
Truly,
is from
truly.
Hayden. I'm going to say your last name wrong. Fesenmeyer. She said, or he said, whoever. Hello, Hayden here from Custom Countertops. We are just starting to create and implement our marketing plan and currently researching as much as we can. Are there any books or classes that you would recommend? Someone else wrote, Sita also wrote, is there like a punch list that you would recommend for a new business? So I think a lot of people, they like want the specifics. So is there a resource that you go to for, a punch list, or are there books or classes you would recommend for everyone listening?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure our marketing bundle includes a punch list of things you need to get started. So that's a great resource as well. We have a bunch of different bundles as well, like a content bundle, marketing bundle, all of those different things to kind of get you started as well. In terms of books, I wouldn't say there's one clear book that I would recommend. I'm definitely more of like a podcast person. I would say Jenna Kutcher has a really good podcast on marketing. If you don't know her, she talks a lot about marketing strategies. And I think that's really a great one to kind of lean into if you're looking for more specific marketing help. But I think at the end of the day, Create and Cultivate is a great resource as well, obviously with all the different downloads and things like that. But you kind of have to shoot from the hip a little bit when it comes to your marketing strategy. Like you don't want to overthink it into like reading the books and doing what everyone else says. Like I think, yes, that's part of it. There should be a punch list. Set up your Instagram, log onto this, make sure you have at Dawn's custom countertops on all your different platforms or whatever, that sort of similarity is. But also, being able to kind of think about what's unique and interesting about us, like, in that way.
I like that. That's great. Cool. And then question for you. This is from Robert Farrow. He said, what dashboard would you recommend to maintain all your social media accounts, i.e. Hootsuite, et cetera? I know you mentioned Planoly. I know it's probably different for everyone. Are there certain ones that you found that you're like, hey, we like this, or we would recommend this for whatever reason?
Yeah, Hootsuite's great because you can time things out and plan in advance. I like Planoly a lot for Instagram. And then also Later is definitely one I would check out. They also have really great content on marketing as well.
Perfect. Okay. I think we've got like time for maybe a couple more questions. So if anyone wants to write in any last ones, please do. But here's a couple more. So like our industry specifically, Jaclyn, there's been a lot of, in-person events, not a lot of in-person events, a lot of like virtual events, meetings, CEUs, like a lot of manufacturers did a lot of virtual type deals, and it created a lot of noise. I'm sure you felt that too. Are there any tips you have to keep your virtual content fresh and appealing so that you can increase attendance, but also not get lost in that noise? I think a lot of people struggled with that and the idea of creating more content. It's like that balance of how do we create more, but keep it like fresh and appealing while, not getting lost.
Yeah. I think I think it was, I was talking to someone the other day, but I was like, remember when the pandemic first launched and like everyone was going live? Like it was like you went on Instagram, it was like every single person in your feed was live. It was like, oh my God. That's kind of how it feels now with virtual summits. Like I feel like it's really challenging to break through the noise and keep people engaged. So what I would say is, if you are a smaller brand that doesn't have a massive following yet, don't launch a virtual summit. Create content for social. Like that's so much more going to be so much more worth your time and worth like the effort and energy of what you're doing to create that content. If you do want to participate in something, team up with like-minded brands to build something together to also cross-match your audience, right? So, what maybe it's like a cabinet company, a window company, a paint company, a tile company, a concrete, whatever. And you all come together to create kind of a fun, specific virtual event versus trying to do it on your own. It's sort of like that. If you build it, they will come. Like that's not the case when it comes to virtual summits. I think you really have to be specific about your time and energy. And if you are putting time and energy into any type of content, it should be your social media.
That's great. This question is from Prutha. She's in New York. She's actually a next gener. How often have you come across entrepreneurs who have started their journey of independence much later in life and succeeded? We have a lot of people in the industry, I think, that are like kind of like they've been in the industry a while and they're thinking of switching or changing, but they're a little bit older. Like how often have you seen that journey of independence later in life? And like any kind of tips for someone who's exploring that or nervous about that or whatever?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a great question. It's interesting at Create and Cultivate, a lot of times we get moms and daughters who attend. So we'll have like a daughter in her 20s and like a mom in her 40 or 50s who are both going through completely different life stages, but are interested in the same thing, right? Like either the 20-year-old wants to find her first job, and then the mom's like, I've been a lawyer for 30 years. I want to start my interior design business. So I think there is no age range when it comes to entrepreneurship. It really just comes down to the person and the idea and the execution. Truly at any age, you have to be passionate about what you're doing at that point, right? Like you don't want to go start a business to go make money in your 40s. That's going to like bleed you dry at the end of the day. So I would say if you're going to make that transition into independent work or life, especially if it's a transition to a different industry, it has to be something that you're truly passionate about. And obviously the money will come. But I think that's absolutely important to think about as well. If you're looking, it's like, for instance, if you've been, part of a big interior design firm for a long time and you want to go independent, I think that's great as well. I mean, I've been seeing a lot of people make that transition during the pandemic as well, because they want that independence. They realize they can work from home. Maybe they have more flexibility with their family and things like that. I think that's really important. I would say, I always sort of joke that, and I'm to treat your employer as your investor, right? So if you're looking to go out and launch that side hustle to CEO, start saving for those 6 months or whatever it is to create that that runway that you need financially to launch your business. And that's different for everyone, but creating that, giving yourselves those 6 months to launch, thinking about the milestones do you want to hit during that 6 months, and then hit the ground running. But I would say don't do that without a plan. Have a really strong plan in place, but I would say it's never too late to pivot, come up with a completely new business, jump into an entirely new industry. I mean, we live in the age of Google University, where it's not like you have to go back to school for 4 years to start something completely different. Like you can truly learn anything on the internet. So I think definitely don't be scared to take that leap.
That's so true. And I think having the plan, like we hear so many next geners talk about it, and I'll ask them what their plan is. And they kind of think, sometimes people think, not most people, but some people think it just happens. And it's like, dude, all of this stuff you got to really kind of plan out before you do it, just like you said. All right, cool. So we've got like time for about one more question. Maybe we'll end with this, Jaclyn. And then if there's any other questions or comments you have at the end here, let me know. This is from Kristen Schubert. Any tips for moving the needle forward? How do you plan small while not losing big sight of the bigger goal? So I think it's more like, all these topics we talk about can be very overwhelming. Even just the one aspect of marketing can be overwhelming. So what are kind of your like tips for moving the needle forward, planning small while not losing sight of the big picture?
Yeah, I mean, I always say my day is spent 80% in the now and 20% in the future. And I think that's really important. So when you're doing anything throughout the day, you're focused on the here and now, right? Like what's the project that needs to get done today? What's the invoice I need to send right now? What are all these different things? But the most important part is that 20%. What am I doing next month? Do I need to start hiring? Should I bring on this person? Do I need to think about this social strategy? What's a holiday next month where I need to have a campaign figured out? So thinking about that 20% is really important. I think if you break it down like that, it's very doable. But I think it's one day at a time and taking those little incremental steps. The most important thing to know about social media is it's very challenging to become an overnight success, especially now it's a pay to play environment. So don't be frustrated if the first day you don't get 10,000 likes on your image or whatever it might be. It really is quality over quantity, especially now, and especially with the customers that you're trying to get. I would definitely say, start putting into place these little items and then grow and build as it becomes easier for you, because it will become easier for you to start doing that. But I think it's just important. I always say start by starting. That's the best way to get anything moving, and then learn from there.
I love that. That's great. Jaclyn, you're amazing. I'm so glad we got to spend even just this time together. Do you know, how do we announce the winner for the Create Cultivate marketing bundle? Let's see here.
I'm also going to share this slide with you guys before we end, just so you guys know. If you go to CambriaUSA.com/KBIS, you can view their full schedule and experience for all of Cambria's events. But also thank you guys so much for all the amazing questions. I'm on Instagram at Jaclynr Johnson. If you want to DM me or ask me any of the questions that didn't get answered, I'm happy to jump in there as well.
That's perfect. And my Instagram handle is Network Next Gen. So just at Network Next Gen, reach out to me. I'm Tara. And then also the winner will be notified later by Cambria for the digital bundle. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be a lot of value for whoever gets that. So thanks, Jaclyn. And thanks to our friends at Cambria. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.